Hello, this is Abby.
Dear Abby, this is gonna be a long one.
Oh boy.
Dear Abby, how do you tell the difference between a new exciting crush and a rebound?
Does it matter?
Dear Abby.
Dear Abby.
Dear Abby.
Welcome to our little corner of the internet. This is the Dear Abby podcast. I hope you stay and hang out with us. See you in a sec. Here we are again. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Dear Abby. I am your host. My name is Abby, and I will be hosting today. Wherever you're at, in your car, or maybe you're listening at work or wherever, I hope that you are having a pretty good day. Doesn't have to be a great day, doesn't have to be a horrible day. It can just be an ordinary day. My goal in ordinary days is to make them extraordinary, to make them amazing, beautiful, and wonderful. I feel pretty excited for today's episode. We are talking a lot about relationships, relationship anxiety, and also getting married after a divorce. I wanted to share my inner feelings, thoughts, what I have been going through, what I've been going through ever since my divorce, and everything that happened before and after, and just the fight that it's been to get married and to try all of it all over again. I also wanted to share some things that have actually really helped me with wanting to be in a relationship again, with wanting to get married, and also how to enjoy a relationship again and to feel less scared with being close to somebody. So we're going to talk about all that stuff today. From, again, non-professional. I feel the need to remind every once in a while that I am not a therapist. I'm not a professional. This is no replacement for any actual professional help. This is just me sharing my personal stories, thoughts, my advice, and everything would just be, if you need help, turn to someone who is a professional and who can actually help you. And basically don't put that pressure on me because I am not certified to receive that. That being said, I'm excited to share my thoughts about this. But first, I wanted to do something fun because it's been so serious lately. When I'm out of like an OCD fog, I realize how sad and kind of miserable I might appear to others, or also how miserable I feel. And then when I'm on the other side of it, or like even other side of depression, or some cloud is gone and I'm like, oh my gosh, everything's okay, I feel fine again, I feel like myself, my spark is coming back, I then recognize maybe how not okay I've really felt. So I'm always super grateful for people who are understanding of maybe my ups and downs, and I think there's just a lot of people who understand and who get it. So I'm grateful for you guys. So I feel good. I've had a really good week. I've had some moments of heavy disassociation and all of that fun stuff, but I do feel the fog has been lifted the past 48 hours. And so I'm just going to enjoy my time. But anyways, I wanted to have fun, share some life updates. I wanted to share some life updates. And then also I wanted to talk about things like cute things that humans do, and share some of those things that I thought of that I just think are so cute that we do as human beings, and funny, because there just needs to be more positive thoughts towards other people, other humans. That goes a long way. Even your attitude towards other people. It's more helpful to me when I am obviously more loving and open and sweet, and focusing on what I love about other people versus what I'm afraid of other people for, and also what annoys me about other people. I don't want to focus on that because that energy creates tension in my heart, and I don't want that. But first, I wanted to know if this is a common fear of having your microwave explode, because I have been feeling that fear more and more become prevalent in my mind when I am cooking something in the microwave. If something's a little bit wet, I think, is that somehow going to spark something and then my microwave is going to explode? Because how does it work? Like, how does a microwave work? I don't know. I could ask Chad right now how it works and it would be able to tell me. But also, I just get these thoughts like it's going to explode. Like, you need to back up. It's going to explode. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to keep standing here because I'm pretty sure that's like an intrusive thought. And I do not need to back up. I'm just going to stand here. If it explodes, it explodes. And it's my fault. I didn't trust myself. That's the thought process that goes with thoughts like that for me. The other thing is I have a stove top, like a little stove top that I plug in. And it's just two panel, I don't know, two stove top. So I use that to cook basically everything. And it's all I have. And it makes a ticking sound sometimes. And it gets loud. Like not like, you know, like I have to plug my ears loud, but it just gets louder than what is comfortable to be hearing from something that is extremely hot. Because I don't know if it's going to explode or not, or what that sound means. So every time I cook on it, I am a little bit nervous the whole time that it's going to just explode. And then my face is going to be burnt. I've seen it happen. Not with that. Other things though, I've seen it happen with other things. So that one I do try to stand back, and I'm excited to one day have a normal kitchen, because right now I don't have a kitchen. I just have basically counter space, a sink, and then a little plug-in stove top, a little toaster oven, and a microwave. And I'm scared all of them are going to explode all the time, which makes for a pretty stressful cooking experience, I will say. Anyways, that was interesting, and that was top of mind for some reason this week. Another thing that for some reason I've been concerned about, which again I could also look up, I just don't, is pomegranate seeds aren't the like juicy things. They're the little hard part inside of that juicy little popper thing. Do you know what I mean? Like a pomegranate seed is a juicy part, the pomegranate seed, even though there's a seed in that seed? Or would the seed in the seed be the seed? Which one is it? And if the juicy part is not the seed, is it called a pulp sack? Just a pomegranate meat, pomegranate juice, pomegranate pommels. It's something that's been on my mind. And you know what? I'm going to ask Siri. Hey Siri. Hey, what do you call, why did I say that? Hey Siri, what do you call the seeds of a pomegranate, the part that has the juice? Oh my gosh, that was the stupidest way I could have asked. Oh, arils. A-R-I-L-S. The seeds of a pomegranate are encased in bulbs of juice called arils. I knew it. Everyone always said they're called pomegranate seeds. I'm like, that's not a seed. If it has juice, that is not a seed. Every seed I've ever met in my life is crunchy, and it does not have yummy stuff in it. It's just a seed. I'm going to text my fiance that, because he kept telling me it was a pomegranate seed. It's not a pomegranate seed, buddy. It's a pomegranate aril. Anyways, but sometimes I get scared that because you eat the arils with the seed in it, that it's going to somehow sprout in your tummy. I know that's not true, but that was the same thing when I swallowed a lemon when I was a little girl. I was convinced for weeks. I was waiting to have to go to the hospital and for them to take a full lemon tree out of my stomach because it had sprouted. I was just anticipating that. Anyways, those are my life updates, I guess. Wedding planning is stressful, and then it's not stressful, and then it's bliss, and then it's kind of all over the place, which normally I feel like is how it goes. But I'm getting more and more excited. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. What the freak am I doing? Sometimes I think, what the freak am I doing? I'm just yapping away by myself once a week. What am I doing? Cute things humans do. I want to ask everybody who comes on my podcast this, because I'm curious what other people think. I thought of two things. One, I think that waving, if you dissect waving, it's a very cute gesture that people do. The fact that we just want to acknowledge the other's existence, we just wave, we just lift our little hand up, shake it back and forth. It's like, hey, it's like a seal. I don't know. It's just funny that we're just like, this is, who came up with this? Who was the first person that waved? And it's a natural thing. Like, hey, it's just like how to acknowledge someone. I think it's a very cute gesture that people do, that we all do. And I never want to stop because it is so welcoming. Like if you walk into somewhere and someone goes like this, hey, this is a vulnerable thing to do, I think. is just a wave. So that's adorable. I thought about that 2 years ago when we went to the Newport Beach Light Festival for Christmas, and they have yachts that go through and sometimes smaller boats, and they have lights on it and they're crazy. And there'll be a bunch of people on the yacht and a bunch of people on the land, and we'll just wave to each other. We just go, "Merry Christmas," and we wave to each other. And I eat it up the whole time. I think it's like the cutest thing. I think it's so wholesome and just fun. Yeah, it's just adorable. And I was like, it's so cute that we just wave to each other like little NPCs. Same with shaking hands. Shaking hands is like a guy. That's like a guy's hello. I'm serious. It's not like, hey. Actually, I'm realizing that's more of a girl thing to do. Guys are like, I'm serious. I don't want to wave. I want to shake your hand. Don't freaking shake my hand. What are you doing? This is my hand. Don't just shake it. What a weird thing to want to do. Another cute thing that I think we do as humans is banter or riffing. You know, every once in a while when I'm scrolling, I see a video of like, I don't know, people making fun of when you're trying to riff with like new friends or like friends or something and they're not getting it. Like they don't play along or they don't. It's basically just absurdity when something small happens, but then you're like, okay, what if? Yeah, and then what if like he jumps this way, and then what if like his head explodes or something weird? Like it just becomes more absurd by the second. We do that all the time. At least me and my family and friends do. It's like it's not happening, but you just create these absurd scenarios, and then you keep making them more absurd for just sheer enjoyment of that would be crazy. And it's funny every single time. Those are the only two things I have thus far. But if I took more time, I could come up with a bunch of other things that we do that's cute. Oh, another cute thing that we do, one more, and then we'll get into today's episode, is when people comment on YouTube channels. And I must be on a very wholesome algorithm on YouTube, because when I go in the comments, it's always like, God bless you. Like if you're going through a hard time, like you're loved, you're going to get through it. Take a deep breath. It's just like there are people out there to give you some glimpses of hope and humanity, which I think there is actually a lot more than we think. We're just more shocked by the bad, but I think there's a lot of good, and it's okay to kind of change your lens to focus on that. Acknowledge the bad, but focus and lean into that energy that's good. But there's a lot of comments like that, and it's so sweet because there's just these people who just want to post something so that when someone reads it, they can feel better and they can feel rejuvenated and renewed just reading their YouTube comment. I think that's like such an adorable thing. And I think those people are like the salt of the earth. I love those people. It really does make me feel better, even if I'm not having a bad day. But when I see those comments, and it's always like lo-fi videos or like instrumental something of, those kind of playlists on YouTube, they're always such positive comments. But then you go to freaking TikTok or Instagram sometimes now, and you're just so blown away at the absolute trolls that we have. Okay, so let's dive into the meat of today's episode. So I could probably do like 15 episodes on this, and I've talked about my divorce a lot and things that have come up for me, and it's a hard thing to heal from and to feel whole again from, to be honest, and I've talked about that before. But I wanted to talk specifically about some things that it has affected me being engaged, and also just with my relationship with someone new, and ways that it has shown up within our day-to-day relationship, and things that I've really had to open my eyes to about myself and really work on. And not just because I'm going to work on it just to work on it, because I'm bad and I suck and I have to like fix all these things. I want to feel better, and and I've learned from experience the way that I start to feel better is when I am not deciding who gets my love and who doesn't, because I don't think that, in my experience, we're not made to like be picky and choosy who gets our love. That can look like a million different things. And I always want to give a bunch of disclaimers of, I'm not saying that you should give everything away all the time and never take time for yourself. I do think that there's a lot of joy that can be found when you're not as focused on your own misery, and when you really take that like mental shift to not so inward in terms of feeling sorry for yourself and feeling like a victim. So that's why I want to fix something about myself now. It's because I've experienced what it's like to actually make changes about your mental perspective, about your life, and you see the results and you're like, I want to chase that. And that's what I'm going towards. That being said, I wanted to talk about a couple of things. The first thing that has shown up after my divorce is the obvious one, fear of letting somebody in. I've heard people talk about this before. Growing up, I heard it, even like adults saying it. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, I understand you're like, but you can let people get close and it's not that scary. It didn't feel scary to me or like something bad. But after my divorce, I had one part of me that was like, I am not to blame at all. Like, I did nothing wrong. I am perfect. It was 100% all them, only them, forever and ever. Then there's another part of me, the wiser part, the smarter part, that was like, okay, yes, what they did was bad. It was not okay. And you never have to be like that. And that is not okay what they did at all. No matter what, it's not okay. No one deserves to be treated like that. Period. Done. Squared away. And you don't deserve that. And you're not a perfect partner. And there will always be things that you can work on in your relationship. And that is that is one of the hardest parts of getting in a relationship again, is I feel like I have the right to blame everything on everybody else because of the hurt that happened to me. Because I was hurt. Now I am like the dictator of all feelings because I get to be, because I was hurt. And that's how I had like an internal voice that's kind of what it felt like. And for a while, I wasn't as introspective because I was hurt. I was deeply hurt and I was annoyed that like I still wasn't perfect, or that I still had things that I needed to give up and work on, even though someone hurt me very badly. Because my understanding was me working on myself is too hard. No matter how hard I work in this relationship, in my new relationship, it could end the exact same. And that was the most horrifying thought. And it still sometimes gives me so much anxiety. I've already been through that hell, and I would be able to handle myself again. Even though I'm scared that I won't be able to, I know I will pull myself through because I have done it before. And so I have that as like to fall back on. I hope that is making sense. But that's just that's for me, my experience of like, well, I'm pissed off that now I have to do all of this work because in my head it was too hard and it wasn't worth it. And it was like working for somebody else, or that's just my perception, was that it wasn't for me, and it just was like not fair. But obviously my perspective has shifted once I was like, okay, I'm going to have to work on these things, or else or else I'm going to become bitter, angry, alone forever. And even though it feels good to be alone for me, I just know that when I'm 20 years down the road, I will be so sad if I don't try to open my heart again to find love. And I also want a family. I want to be able to enjoy life with other people. And I think other people are like the sweetness of life. At the same time, I really found a love for working on myself. Through that work, I found love for myself. And I found so much more love for myself, which opened my heart automatically to love other people because I felt more okay within myself. I think that was a real key, wanting to get in a relationship again. Anyways, so back to the original thing of what I was saying was it's really hard to let anybody in. So when my now fiance and I first met, we were friends for a while until we actually started dating. And we broke up once because I wanted to break up because I was petrified of getting in a relationship. I don't think I'm ready. I'm extremely jealous of everything. Like if you talk about another girl, I feel like you're cheating on me. Like that's where I was. I was like not in a place to be in a relationship is how I felt. And I might not have been. I don't know. There's not a freaking rule book for it. I think it just depends on what you and your significant other decide that you guys will work through together or whatever. And so I ended it. I was petrified. He was like, okay, yeah, I think he was like mutual. So he claims, but I don't think it was mutual. And he's like, yeah, I think that's good. Just do what you need to do, figure it out. And then like, we'll, see if maybe we can make it work later. And then we found our way back to each other pretty fast after a couple of weeks. And it was like, let's just try this thing. And it might be a crap show and we might end up hating each other or something, but like we should try to figure this out. It felt like I should try this with him because something kept pulling me to him, but also the way that he handled arguments. He set boundaries with me, which I did not like at first, and I am okay to admit that. That's naturally what happens. I feel like when you are abandoned and you have certain wounds, there's certain things that are very triggering, and it felt like he was cutting me off, or he was like cutting off love from me when he set boundaries. It's something that I had to realize, that it was okay that he had boundaries. And I know that sounds crazy, and I hope, and if you judge me for that, that's fine. Like, I am not that anymore. It's just, you don't know until you know. I wanted to try again because he was very patient with me. He didn't judge me for like times that I felt like my world was crumbling and would have an anxiety attack. I never felt judged by him. Sometimes I could sense that he was frustrated with me. And so we had to figure out how to communicate that back and forth to each other. So when we first started dating, I had so much relationship anxiety and OCD, specifically OCD. I had so many obsessions with if I thought he was attractive enough, if I've talked about this as well, if I thought he was funny enough, if I'm like, am I even in love with him? How come I don't feel obsessed with him right now? All of these like what if. And it really pushed me away from him. And it was like my way of almost sabotaging the relationship because I don't know if he's going to hurt me at the end of this. I still don't. You know, I'm pretty sure he's not going to, but I don't know for sure. And I got to a point where I had to take the power back for myself and not only depend on my emotions or not only listen to my feelings, but it was like, but I want this. I want a relationship. I want to work on myself. I want to love better. I want to learn how to love him better. I want to learn how to love other people better. That's what I want, and I'm going to get that. And I wanted a good relationship. I wanted a loving relationship where we both felt free to be ourselves, and we felt and at the same time felt an immense responsibility for the other person. That's what I want. I wanted that relationship, and I am going to get it. But that's not just going to happen. That's, I think, what I've learned so much. It's beautiful that I can choose what I want to do with my relationship when you have a willing partner who wants the same thing. And me and him don't agree on every tiny lifestyle or life decision. But the main ones we agree on. And there's a lot of times we've had to have long conversations about misunderstandings. Yeah, basically I had just so many things that I could throw at the relationship to sabotage it. And so many fears that I had to push him away and to keep him away from, like, you know, the innermost parts of my heart, especially physically. Physically was, I think physical for me was really triggering for multiple reasons. You know, I saved myself for marriage because that's just something that was important to me. And I'm glad that I did that because I saved myself and I got married and then he left. That was like a pretty big scar and wound for me because I felt completely rejected, disrespected, not cherished whatsoever. That part of me did not feel cherished. And I know I deserve to be cherished and held with love and appreciation. So physically, that came up as like, I didn't want to be physical at all in any sense of the word, which was obviously hard for him. And I had to do a lot of exposure of just relaxing into even being cuddled. Like being cuddled, my mind, oh my gosh. When he would cuddle me, my mind would explode with like, what if, or like I would just feel like I am floating. I felt like I was floating all the time, even though I was being held. It was like my body was so scared to just like let him hold me. I was like, I don't feel safe in a man's arms. Like, I just don't. But like, I know him and I knew I was, but my body just like didn't know that. And it's like, I made it worse by trying to avoid it and to try to like not be held. And, you know, I can do this on my own. I don't need that. Like, I'm not a physical person, all of that stuff. But but the core was, I just was scared that he wasn't holding me in that love. It was like all selfish, or he was doing this but thinking of other girls and he was not cherishing me and loving me, which is a major fear. And I think a lot of women feel that way. I'm definitely not alone. And I know I'm not alone in that. And it's a really scary thing because as a woman, I feel like you have this immense capacity to feel, and it's like all about your feelings. And that can be hard to navigate in this world. And it also can be hard when you have other things that make your emotions a little bit too overpowering. But also, we have these womanly tender hearts. Not that men don't have tender hearts. Men are sweet and tender. But we're women, and it's different. A man should protect that and help that sprout. That little part of you that's sensitive and tender and sweet and makes a house a home, all of that good stuff. A man should protect that part and should let that part sprout. And it's so scary to think of what if I'm in a relationship to where that doesn't happen and to where I'm not allowed to sprout. That is crippling. And sometimes we probably can sprout. I don't even know if this makes sense, but maybe you'll get me. But we're too scared to test the waters to see, so we don't even let it happen. We almost don't let ourselves sprout because we're scared we're going to get rejected. We're scared we're going to get left. We're scared we're going to get told no or be judged or misunderstood. And I've learned two things with that. One, guys do not understand women, period. They can try to understand and they can empathize and they can be sweet and they can understand some things, but a lot of them just don't get women. And I don't really get men too much either. It's not an excuse to never want to learn more about your wife or never want to learn more about your husband. I think everyone can always do better at knowing the other person's brain and how it works, and then learning how to help that and help them feel like themselves, help them grow, help them sprout. And it was interesting because the more I was focused on my fear of that, the less I was sprouting, because I was so scared he was going to judge me or not like me because of it, or he was going to be someone that was going to push me down, even though he never did that. It's just because my ex-husband did it that I was like, this is just how men work. This is how it works. That quite literally was the reality for me. So I'm not crazy for thinking that that's going to happen again. But I think the beauty is when you do, after learning that you can trust somebody, and they're not perfect, but you can trust somebody and they care and they respect you, then it's beautiful, because then you actually are able to see that people are good, that there are good men out there that love and respect women. And they're not perfect at it, just like women aren't perfect at always respecting men. But then it came to a point where I, again, was like, okay, wait, I'm strong and I would be able to handle that, but I don't want to waste my life away being scared that he's going to do something. I'm just going to risk it for the biscuit and see and be myself, and let's see what happens, and let him hold me and turn off my brain, even though we can't really do that, but to try to just trust him and to turn that part that's I need to fix, and this part that's going crazy right here, I'm going to let him hold that part of me as well. And it's just a way that I was able to reconnect with him. That just happened by wanting to cuddle more, wanting to be more physical, me being more physical first. And this isn't anything crazy. This is just simply hugging or kissing or cuddling or scratching his back or something. I feel filled when I am helping others heal or helping others relax. And so that was something that I'm just going to help him relax every day. I'm going to try to do that. If he's stressed for work, I'm going to give him a little massage. If he feels like he's sunburned, I want to put something on his face. If he feels this, I want to try to help in this way. Once I started to focus on that, not just all the things that he's doing wrong to love me, but what can I do to actually love him, and not to get a reaction, but actually to let myself love him, my mind started to change and my perspective on my relationship started to change, and he started to trust me more, because I used to think everything he'd say, I would somehow think it was of the worst intention. And I can't even imagine how annoying that would be on the receiving end, because I feel like he never really felt understood by me. Even though I'm well, you need to understand me first and then I'll understand you. But I'm no, but I want to understand him, so I'm going to try. And I feel like that really helped as well with risking it for the biscuit and just changing the energy, changing the perspective, shifting. And that kind of helped my brain feel like it's okay to let somebody in, and it's okay to love somebody, even if maybe in the future they're going to reject me. But it felt more healing to do that than to like withhold and curl up more and more and more and more alone. When I first got engaged, and just to clarify, all of this risk in it was because he had shown me time and time again that he was going to keep showing up. And even if he shows up imperfectly, he's still showing up, and he's trying to humble himself and try again and try again and try again, to listen to me time and time again, to respect me time and time again. And so that's why I was like, okay, even though it feels like jumping off a cliff and it feels like I'm jumping blind, that's what I have to do. And I think I'm going to be okay. But it is so scary, and you don't know for sure if you're going to be okay. So when I got engaged, I was overwhelmed with good feelings and nervous feelings, of course. I felt like I was an imposter. You know, a lot of people do see it as like a redeeming story of, you know, this horrible divorce then turns into, I find like the dream boy, the dream life. And that is true. I'm not even going to downplay that. That is like how it feels sometimes. But it's not just like happily ever after where I feel like everything is resolved. We're happy 24/7. Everything is perfect. We will always have to work at our marriage, and we will always have to work on ourselves and, you know, keep humbling ourselves, keep giving, keep sacrificing, keep filling our own cups, you know, all of that stuff, a mix of it all. The overall feeling for me is like, love does conquer all. Someone said that to me the other day about my relationship with my fiance, and I was flattered that that's how they think of it. But also it kind of did help me to think of it in the same way, because I didn't want it to be like flattering to myself, but I do recognize that it is because of the work that we've both put in, but it's also because love just wins. Love conquers all. And it also shows like, if you believe and if you have faith that there's going to be something better for you, and you're going to have a bright future, and you are going to be happy at the end of this, you can get that, and you will get that. Period. That's it. You have to believe in it though. Like if I didn't believe that I could be in love again, and if I didn't believe that I could get to a place of feeling secure in my relationship, I would have never gotten there, because I would have given up. I would have just been like, you know what? I'm happy by myself. And I was like, I loved being single for the short time I was single. I didn't want to get in a relationship again. I was like, this is nice. I can do whatever I want. I can paint all day. I have work, but then I have so much free time. I don't have to worry about being triggered. I don't have to worry about like someone misunderstanding me, or I don't have to worry about arguing with someone or trying to fix something. It's like, that was stressful. I didn't want that, but I believed in something better for myself. And I don't feel the need to say that there's nothing wrong with being single. I think that's extremely obvious, and I don't think anyone needs me to say that. But I knew that's what I wanted, and I knew that's what I wanted with him. For a while after my separation, I had like guys reach out from my past, and I had hung out, like not like a date, but like just caught up with some people, and I'm like, this isn't it. Like, I just feel sick. Like, I don't want to be with anybody. I don't want to like talk to anybody. Everything feels like icky. And even if they were so nice or normal or like my old friend, but it didn't feel good. It just felt icky. But then when I met Keaton and I was talking to him, and the first time we had a conversation, and he felt like a new life. I don't even know how to describe it. It just felt like a breath of fresh air. And I felt like he pulled out a part of me that I didn't know that could come back out, or that I didn't know was okay to have. So that is why I started to believe again. So my belief did go up after seeing what kind of a person he was. And that's okay. I think I needed that after what my experience was. I needed somebody like him. I felt like I could see my new life through his eyes, and I could see myself in his eyes. And it just made sense. And I was like, whatever is happening, I think it's going to be worth it in the end. And I believe you, even though my body doesn't most of the time. It's better now, obviously, but I believe you. I believe in love. I believe that you can make it work if you really dedicate your energy and your time to it. The last thing I'll say on that is to get into specifics. One big thing that I had to learn to stop doing was constantly asking, for reassurance from him if he was mad at me, because it wasn't like a kind way of saying it. It was just, are you mad at me? Like, I feel like your energy's off. Are you mad at me or something? Because that way of saying it is not a very kind opening. That's not your heart chakra opening. You know, that's like you're immediately almost defensive before they even explain why they're mad. And they might not even be mad. I would do that a lot. It would drive me crazy when I'd say it. But I'm like, I can't help it. I have to ask him if, like, are you mad at me? But it'd be like in that. And that probably triggers everybody to hear that type of a sentence in that way. And so there's a lot of small little shifts in my perspective and small shifts in my tone, and also how I ask for if I need validation or if I want to just feel a little bit less crazy, like we talked about last week. There was just a better way of me doing it. And so it was a lot of small shifts. It didn't happen all at once. It was so slow. It's been years. Like, we've been together for years now, and it's been slow, subtle shifts in energy, slow, subtle ways of saying things in a different, better way. Like, now if I feel like he's mad, I don't say it in like, are you mad at me? Sometimes if we're joking around and we're both like in a jokey mood, we can do that and it's like funny. But like when one of us is actually kind of upset, that's just not the way that we want to approach it anymore. Now I try to drop my defenses immediately and believe that there's something that I probably did that might have made him feel upset a certain type of way. And I want to know how and why, because I care about him and I care about his feelings. And that's what I have to tell myself, because I do. But sometimes like you get in your own head about things and you're like me. And you forget that that's actually really what you want. So that's a little bit about that and my feelings towards it. All in all, I'm excited. And I do feel like, even though sometimes that floating feeling comes back, it happens way less, and I know how to handle it now. But I do feel a lot of weight has been lifted from my divorce, and I feel like the more I'm able to let that go, and the more I'm able to make peace with myself, and the more I'm able to be understanding and validating towards myself, the more I feel excited about my marriage. I feel like this is like a real marriage. It feels like the beginning of actually a new life. I refuse to give it any other energy than that. No matter what happens, like, I am still in control of my perspective. I am still in control of my focus. And so I'm going to put it towards a great life with a great husband and a great family. I visualize my life a lot now. To keep my mind focused, and I visualize my future and what I want and who I want to be, how I want to raise children, and I work towards that. I work towards being her. But in order to be her, to get there, I have to be here now with me. Again, don't know if anything I ever say makes any sense, but apparently some people like to listen, so it just would be, and it would just be such a lie for me to say it's been so easy to get to this point, but it is so worth it to get to this point. But it's every single like long conversation, every single time I felt like I was going to explode or I wanted to run away, but I was like, okay, I feel horrible right now and I feel so scared, but I'm going to choose this path and I'm just going to see what happens, and I'm going to love him no matter what. I'm going to do my best at setting the boundaries I need to, but also sometimes I don't know where the line is, because that's just my personality. I'm like, sometimes I lean on to be more of an anxious person. And so sometimes that looks like we shouldn't have boundaries, like everything should just be open and whatever, but I actually do need boundaries, and that's something that he's taught me. Every single ounce of uncomfortable feelings and discomfort has been worth it to get to this point with him, because now I feel like we can get through anything and I will still be treated with kindness and love and respect. We can both have bad days, grumpy days, frustrated days, but we always say we're sorry. We always come back to a resolution, and we don't leave things unsaid. There's so much more, but we have a bunch of episodes and we have forever to go. So I can talk about all the other things some other time. Okay, well, we're going to do a Dear Abby and then wrap up today's episode, and then I'm going to eat some tacos.
Dear Abby, I'm a girl in high school, and I constantly feel left out from my friends, or just feeling like people aren't thinking of me or don't invite me to certain things, or just don't really want to hang out with me. And I have a lot of great friends, and I do feel loved when I'm with them, and I feel like I do have some great friends, but I just feel like outside of school or when I don't initiate gatherings or hangouts, no one thinks of me or thinks to invite me. And this can be kind of hard sometimes, because even though I know that they're my friends and they love me, it's hard to feel that way when they don't invite me to things or it doesn't seem like they think of me. What can I do, and should I reach out to them? Thank you and love you so much and love the podcast.
Well, you're not crazy for feeling that way, especially when, friends is a really big piece of your life, especially in that time. I remember being the same way, and it is a big deal, and it does feel really crappy, even if it's not even necessarily accurate that they're leaving you out or they're purposely doing it or whatever. That never feels good, because sometimes I feel like that does open up a can of worms, or that can open up certain like insecurities or things that you already think maybe negatively about yourself, that when then someone purposely or unpurposely doesn't invite you, those feelings start to come up because you think maybe this is why, or maybe you believe something a little bit more negative about yourself. And so that's the reason why when they don't invite you, you feel like they're doing it purposefully because you believe they should be, or because there's a part of you that thinks that you had something that they wouldn't want to invite, if that makes sense. So there could be some of that. I think this is how I would combat this. Personally, don't know if this is like going to be helpful for you, but whenever I'm not invited to something, I say, one, good riddance, because now I get to do something fun. I can learn a new hobby. I can paint. I can draw. I can watch some Netflix. I can like be in my own space. I can be in my own energy, and I love my energy, so maybe spend more time alone purposefully to be more comfortable and to like learn to love being in your own energy for times where you're not invited, or when maybe you feel a little bit more lonely. Yeah, I would just flip the script in my head of like, I understand it's tempting to go to that place of nobody likes me, I'm annoying, this is why they don't like me, blah, 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 blah. Instead of that, I would probably go towards something more helpful, like I am fun and I am a good friend. And sure, I'm not perfect, and maybe I do sometimes talk too much, or maybe sometimes they just wanted to be without me for a little bit. And that's okay. Someone can not want to hang out with you one night, and they could still love you and adore you as their friend, as their best friend, as a person. That's a valuable lesson to learn, because then you're not as like watching everybody's moves to see whether they like you or not. But it is true that somebody cannot. It is true that somebody might not want to hang out with you for a night or something, or it might have just slipped their mind, and they could still adore you and love you and think you're the greatest. And so maybe that'll help, make it less of a big thing in your mind. And then to go off what I said about being in your own energy and being like, okay, cool. Like if they don't want to invite me, then awesome. I get to have a whole night to myself. Like I get to vibe with myself. I get to listen to music that I want to listen to, and you can just have a good night, and then you still love them and you want to hang out with them next time or something. It doesn't have to be all one or nothing, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. It can be, a little bit of everything. And sometimes that helps with friendships, because then you don't feel as much pressure to have it be all or nothing, or all the time and none of the time. It can just be a little bit in between. Then there's another side where if you actually feel like it's intentional, or they are slowly shifting away from you, they could be maybe avoiding you or being purposefully not inviting. And I don't think that would be that different of a scenario, because okay, well, they're not really inviting me, but I still can be in my own energy. I can still invite people over to my house. I can find new friends, or even if like that's too much for you, you can just hang out with your family, hang out with your siblings, your parents, or whoever. I know that can be not cool, but I've never regretted spending a bunch of time with my siblings in high school. I loved my friends, and I love friends, but I mean, my siblings were my friends, and my mom and my dad. I understand how tempting and how easy it is to slip into like having other people lead your friendship, or have other people be in control of like kind of your feelings or how you show up, but it feels better and it's more powerful when you're able to kind of be like, this is how I'm going to show up. And if I want to go to this party and maybe this person just forgot to invite me, and I'm going to assume that, and then I'm going to ask them like, hey, can I come? And if they are weird about it, then like you can decide if you want to go with that energy or not. But if they just invite you and they're like, oh yeah, sure, like I didn't even think about that, or like, oh yeah, of course, like then it's like, cool, then just show up and be yourself. And I know it's easier said than done, because it's really hard, especially if you are maybe more anxious in social settings or you overthink it. That can feel very daunting and like a big deal. the worst that can happen is somebody doesn't like you and they think you talk too much, or you don't talk enough, or they think you're weird. But again, the more you're comfortable with yourself and the more you're comfortable with your own energy and space, and you have hobbies and you have things that you like to do alone, the less anxious you'll be about how other people like you, because you'll start to like yourself more and more. And so you won't care as much. Like if someone finds you annoying, or if someone like doesn't want to hang out, it's like, well, fair enough. Teach their own. That's all my advice on that. But I'm sure you are very loved by your friends. And you even said it, you're loved by your friends. And so I think just kind of the whole not thinking black and white might be super helpful. Like they could still want to do their own thing with maybe just 2 of them, but they still could love and adore you. Okay, well, that's it for today, you guys. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you want to support the podcast, you can find me on Spotify, Apple, YouTube. You can subscribe, leave a comment. You can leave a rating or a review on Apple or Spotify. That would be super helpful. Whether it's a written review or just a 5-star or however many stars you think is, I would very much appreciate it. I always appreciate when you guys share my podcast or maybe talk about it to people who might be interested or might find it helpful in whatever way to them. But I hope you guys have a great rest of your week and be kind to yourself. Take yourself out, do something fun. Love you. Bye.
우회전 taking a ride to journey 눈치 보면서 들어가야 할 때 찾아 나머진 바빠